What's up, everybody? Welcome into Around the Felt. Here with me today is my co-host, Mr. Colin Tong. How are we doing?
I'm doing great, Reagan. How was your trip to Aruba, my friend? Reagan went tropical this past weekend.
You tell me. For those of you watching on the YouTube, I am very tan. I went from
Attaboy.
I'm still on the pale side, but I'm a more tan pale version of myself, But yeah, it was great. I mean, nice weather, a lot of drinks, a lot of shitty foods, family, friends, great time. What can you ask for? And with a grueling job like podcasting we have, I mean, it's nice to get a break away from the studio and recording.
Yeah, it sounds like the only thing that could have made that better, Reagan, was some NFL football to watch. But, with the schedule being released yesterday, a lot of fun games we have this upcoming season. Excited to talk about that, Reagan. But the main event today is going through the rookies. We're going to do a little bit of a mock draft. I know NFL season is a little slow right now, but a lot of fantasy football rookie drafts in Dynasty are happening this summer coming up. So it'll be fun to break those rookies down. And, we're going to trade picks back and forth on what we would do on a standard full point PPR Dynasty league. One quarterback, not a super flex. Should be a good time, Reagan. But I believe we have some questions to dive into first.
Yeah, we do have some questions. A couple people submitted them, and we're also before we get into the questions, quick. Let's talk about the big thing. Obviously, you mentioned the schedule release. Are there any games you've seen so far that you're like, man, I cannot wait to watch that?
I have a lot of games, Reagan, that I would like to dive into. You want to talk about my Giants specifically to start with?
No, definitely not. But anyway.
We're going to do it. Week 7 at home against the Eagles. That game will be rowdy. I'm sure there'll be a good amount of Saquon Barkley Eagles jerseys in the building. I am sure we will see a lot of Saquon Barkley Giants jerseys getting burnt in the parking lot. So, I mean, I already know Dave said he's going to do it. So, that's one.
I mean, does that even count? If I was Saquon, I'd be like, I would laugh about that. I'd be like, my tenure with the Giants was longer than his fandom with the Giants. So, I mean,
oh my God.
Not
Yo,
to take a shot, but
shots are fired right now. I mean, that's true. His tenure was much
yeah.
longer than Dave's fandom, but
so I mean, coming from that, if I was Saquon, I'd be laughing and be like, that fair weather fan.
But fair weather fan.
Yeah, it's gonna get to the point where is Matt Breida still on the roster? Because it might get to the point where he's seeing Matt Breida as a Giant longer than he has Saquon.
No, Matt Breida is no longer on the roster, but
Gary Brightwell.
Brightwell is still on the roster, but ask Dave if he knows who Gary Brightwell is. The answer will be no.
But yeah, I mean,
that's
just
a big
disrespectful if you do that, Drock. Disrespectful.
It is. That's a big one I'm looking forward to, though. It'll be an interesting game. Obviously, the Giants beat the hell out of the Eagles in Week 18 last year, but this will be a different Eagles team rolling into MetLife. I'm also excited for Week 6, Sunday Night Football versus the Bengals. The night games just have a different atmosphere to them, and I know that's not a game the Giants are expected to win, but watching Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase do their thing in person will be cool to watch.
Yeah, I'd imagine you'd be rooting for the Bengals in that one for just because you're a big Bengals guy, right?
No, I'm not. But in our Dynasty League, I do have the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase stack, but I will be rooting heavily against them.
So no Bengals Super Bowl future?
No, actually, I will probably take a Bengals Super Bowl future this season as well, but I'm marking that one down as a loss for the Bengals. It's a long season, though, Reagan. It's a long season. True. Week 10 versus the Panthers in Germany. I'm excited to wake up at 9 a.m. with a cup of coffee and watch my Giants beat the hell out of the Panthers in Germany. That's pretty cool. I know a lot of people are like, damn, they really screwed Germany with that game. The team that had the worst team in the league last year, the Giants, who picked 6th in the draft. Not a sexy game, but it'll be cool to watch them early on in the morning when I wake up with a hangover.
Oh, good thing for Germany. I mean, they're used to soccer, and soccer's very low scoring, so won't be a big change. Hey, they might even see Bayern Munich may even put up more goals that week than combined points between the Giants and Panthers. Haha, I know soccer too.
Zing.
Get ready for around the net when I start talking European soccer.
No, yeah, I mean, you got a lot of digging to do before that one, my friend. And then finally for my Giants, just a yuck. I'm not happy that we got stuck playing in Dallas again on Thanksgiving. It was 2022. We lost 28-20 to Dallas on Thanksgiving. Then last year we lost to the Eagles on Christmas. I like to enjoy my holidays. And let's be honest, the Giants have a very difficult time winning in Jerry's world. So I was not too happy to see that game on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, like, I don't know. It's obviously it's like the Cowboys and Lions have to play, but I would have liked to see a better matchup. I mean, come on, you can't put the Cowboys Eagles. That would have been awesome.
That would have been
Awesome.
awesome. I will say though, Reagan, the Thanksgiving slate as a whole, Chicago versus Detroit is a fun game for sure. Then obviously Dallas Giants, and then Miami Green Bay is a fun game for
Yeah,
the nightcap. That's a good one, man. That's definitely a good matchup.
definitely. I'll probably be asleep at that point, but yeah, no, I'm kidding.
With
I'll
your
be up.
belly
That
full of turkey.
yeah,
That's
you know
how
how
my
we do
boy
it.
rolls on
I
Thanksgiving.
will say I'm pissed that my Jets didn't get that Black Friday game. I
I
was hoping
know,
we'd become
dude.
Black Friday's team, but they said around the felt, we don't give a crap about your traditional tailgate. So
I know. That was
RIP
so
to the
much fun
around the
last
felt
year.
tailgate. It
Oh,
lasted one whole year. So
hey,
the
maybe we
golf
do
scramble
another
will last
game.
longer.
Maybe we
That
do another game. We'll hash out the schedule. Do Giants
Halloween,
or Jets.
Halloween,
We could
Jets
figure it
play
out.
Halloween against the Texans. Ooh,
Ooh,
bring
is
your
that?
costumes.
Ooh, that's a
I'm
fun
definitely going to
one.
that game. I'm 100% going.
Yeah, you
I
got to
get
go
some
to that
stupid
game.
ass costume and go crazy.
100%. Reagan, what games on the Jets schedule stuck out to you besides obviously the Halloween game and then missing out on the Black Friday?
Well, first off, fuck the schedule makers. You're some sick fucks putting Rodgers on Monday Night Football.
I
I mean, the
know.
only thing more sickening than putting him on Monday Night Football is putting him on Monday Night Football at home. So at least you didn't put him on a turf field, but fuck you. And they send it back home. But also, the Jets got fucking boned. Like, they got boned. Out of the first 11 games, 6 of them are prime time, and then one of them's in London as well. So 7 of our first 11 games are like non traditional games in the sense. So I mean, the schedule's not exactly hard, but it's just like, what the hell? That's the first time ever a team's had 6 primetime games in the first 11.
Yeah,
So it's
that's
crazy to
nuts.
me. I mean, most of them are
Also,
very winnable games. So
Reagan, I like you just highlighted it. Last year they started off with an absolute gauntlet to start the season, like one of the most difficult starts potentially in NFL history. So at least it's not as bad out of the gates this year.
no, I mean, ideally, like we could be outside of the 49ers, like the rest of them should be cupcake games. I mean, you're giving us the Titans, Patriots, Broncos, and Vikings. And
Yeah.
none of those teams are even like going to be competing. Maybe the Vikings and Titans, but I doubt it. And the other two are just fighting for the worst team in the league. But yeah, I mean, those are some games. Obviously, I'm pretty excited to see Jets Bills. I mean, just back on Monday Night Football in MetLife. That should be cool. And then the Jets Texans, like I highlighted. And Jets 49ers will be cool. I mean, not super excited to have to play a team like that on Monday Night Football, but and then just going around the rest of the league. I mean, that Eagles Packers game, I'm so happy that we get an extra day of football to start off the year. I mean, if
Yep.
it wasn't already a treat enough getting them to start the season on September 5th, which is pretty early to me. I think last year it started on like I think the first game was
It
like
was
the
close. No, it
9th.
was close because maybe.
Oh no, you know what? Last year because Monday night was September 11th. So I guess
Yeah,
it's
it was
2 days
close.
earlier this year, which is nice. But also we get that extra day to watch a football game. So Thursday, Friday, college football Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So whole
Yeah.
lot of football.
Awesome. I'm curious to see the crowd in Brazil as well. I think it's going to be pretty electric down there. That
Yeah,
should be cool.
I would say so. And then obviously we get the Christmas games, which is cool. We got the Chiefs Steelers, the early one. Like, that just screams like Steelers are like having quarterback issues and the Chiefs steamroll. And then Texans Ravens, that should be fireworks. So
That's actually on Netflix as well. Netflix is dipping their toes in the NFL water, trying to get some of that revenue. Netflix is hosting that game on Christmas.
yeah, those scumbags don't let you share accounts anymore. So can't wait to sign up for a Netflix account to watch 2 football games. And then it's actually pretty cool because then they're going to do Thursday. They'll have Seahawks Bears. So that's another week where we get a whole lot of football.
Yep. Some that stuck out to me when I looked at the league schedule. Kansas City at Buffalo, week 11. It seems like they play every year. That's a fun one. Let's see if Josh Allen can beat the Kansas City Chiefs. It's in Buffalo, which helps, but weaker supporting cast for Josh this year. Baltimore at Kansas City, the opener. There are a couple teams that they could have went with. I love that they did the AFC Championship rematch. That should be a hell of a game. Dallas at Cleveland, week 1. Tom Brady's broadcasting debut. Of course, they draw the Cowboys fandom. Just get the biggest audience that you can for that game. I think Brady's going to be phenomenal in the booth. Has big shoes to fill with Greg Olson leaving, though. We touched on the Christmas games. How about Baltimore at the Chargers, week 12? Jim versus John Harbaugh.
Super Bowl rematch. Well,
Yeah.
kind of. Not exactly like
Kind
between
yeah,
the brothers in that
head
sense.
coaching rematch with the
I think that's
brothers.
the
I
last
think
time
that'll
they
be
played.
fun. Yeah, it's got to be. And then finally, Atlanta at Minnesota, week 14, the return of Kirko Chains, Kirk Cousins.
Kirko.
I'm curious to see if he gets a round of applause or boos. I'd imagine it'd be mostly cheers because who doesn't love Kirk Cousins? Great dude. I know he left, but you know.
Yeah, no, I mean that'll be cool. Another thing, like why that like week I'm looking here, week 15. They're doing that dumb shit again on Monday night where they have 2 games, but instead of like splitting them out, oh, let's just start Vikings Bears at 8 and hey, why not? While we're at it, we'll start the Falcons Raiders at 8:30. Like why?
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 That makes no sense.
Make it make sense. I thought the
Make it
Netflix
make
thing was
sense.
bad, but that's fucking stupid. Oh,
And also, it's
sorry.
so stupid,
PG
Reagan,
friendly
because
stream.
they also stack like there's some weeks where I think there's one week where there's 9 games at 1 o'clock on a Sunday and there's 3 at 4. Make that make sense. Why
Oh,
don't you
they
give
did.
us 7 and 5? More games at 4.
Oh, don't worry. They did again in week 7 as well. They got the Ravens Bucks at 8:15 and then Chargers Cardinals at 9. So hey, they gave us an extra 15 minutes of spreading it out, but like, come
Why are
on.
they doing that? I don't
The
get that part.
Bucks and the Cardinals are in way different time zones. You can easily put the Bucks at 7 o'clock, and you can put the Cardinals. You can still put them at 9:30, and it's not. I think
If
they're
9:30
I believe
Eastern,
they're
they're
two
2 hours
hours.
behind. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that would make too much sense.
I don't know. It sounds like they should hire us to do the schedules, Reagan.
Yeah, I mean that's my like biggest nitpick. That and the Netflix shit, just because one more streaming platform. Oh wait, in week 4 they do it too. They do it again. We got 7:30 Dolphins Titans and then 8:15 Lions Seahawks. So 3 times. Nope, they
No,
do
they
it
do it
4
4.
times.
No, oh
We
my.
got the Jaguars Bills and the Commanders Bengals split up by 45 minutes. I will be making a rant
Are those
later on.
are those all on ESPN platforms? They can't be, right?
I see
But also
ESPN and ABC, so
yeah,
technically
so
I
it
know they're
is.
like
Yeah, it's the
interlinked.
ABC.
Yeah, I mean that's just dumb. That's just dumb. Like
You,
why?
you know what it is? It's probably ABC negotiating with the NFL that they want more games. So they got them more games, but now they're just pulling viewers away from one game or the other. I don't get that.
Make it make sense.
Make it
Make it
make
make sense.
sense. I don't know, dude. I don't know. Whatever. We did get to see some funny schedule release videos though. The
Yeah,
Titans ran it back from last year. I like that one when they're on the
Harrison
street.
Harrison Bucker getting flamed by the Chargers.
Yeah,
They
no,
had him
he
in the
did get
kitchen.
flamed.
I mean, I don't really speak on like stuff like that. But I just thought it was funny that they trolled him because usually I feel like teams try to stay away from all the political negative publicity, whatever you believe in. I really don't give a shit. That's your opinion, but it's just so funny to me that they were like they just trolled them. And I did see before on Twitter, and I'm sure it's like one of those fake accounts, but I saw Harrison Butker. This has got to be like one of those dupe accounts, but he has the top selling jersey right now. ML Football Breaking has Harrison Butker's jersey is now the highest selling jersey in the entire NFL after his recent comments. That's got to be a troll. Oh yeah,
Ah,
it's got to be a
it's
troll.
I don't know.
Got to be a troll.
Who's buying Bucker jerseys, bro? I mean, he's
Uh
a great kicker. He's made some clutch kicks for them, but who's buying a Bucker jersey?
oh my gosh, that's
Yeah,
too
I mean,
funny.
that's all I got from the schedule, Reagan. You want to move on to questions?
Yeah, I'll pull them up. Obviously, trucks in what Hawaii?
Drock is currently on a flight to Maui. He's getting tropical. It's his turn. And then I'm going to Aruba in 2 weeks. So then it's my turn to get tropical. So Round the Feld is going tropical.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just like a father figure slash big brother to the Tongs, and of course they chose to go to Aruba because they're like, you know what, you said it was fun, so we'll book a vacation. And I shit you not, Lance called me up. He's like, hey, my boys have been begging me to go to Aruba. Like, give me the scoop. I gave him the scoop, and sure enough, I get a call today. Reagan, we're booked to go to Aruba. So now the Tongs are going to Aruba.
Yeah, I'm curious if anyone listening actually believed you with that story, but
I'm sure a few. I'm sure a few. It was pretty convincing. But all right, let's get into the questions. First off, we got Osty Bear, the giant
Austin.
bear himself. Roar. His name's Osty. His first question: what are your top two favorites for offensive rookie of the year and defense of rookie of the year?
Good question, Austin. Top two favorites for offensive rookie of the year. I mean, it's interesting, Reagan, because you want to say quarterback, but
I mean, I'm going to say quarterback.
in recent memory, it hasn't been quarterbacks. But
Usually depends on the draft, though. Like this is a more stacked quarterback class.
absolutely,
So,
like, Caleb Williams is an obvious answer. He's got a loaded wide receiver core around him. Good
mhm.
situation, a solid defense. The back half of last year should carry over. That's an obvious answer. Marvin Harrison Jr., another obvious answer, just because he's the clear number one in Arizona, and Kyler Murray has shown us that he can get a wide receiver to produce a ton when he did it with DeAndre Hopkins. I'll give you a dark horse though. JJ McCarthy.
I don't know. I was gonna say him too. I don't know if that. I wouldn't say that's a dark horse. I mean,
What are the odds on him? Is
I
he
would
kind
say
of up
he's like
there?
probably has the second best quarterback odds, and he's probably, if I had to guess, like he's probably only behind Marvin Harrison. Like if I was guessing, he'd probably be third because like with obviously neighbors and a Dunze, like the situations are a little murky. Like year one with McCarthy, like you expect him to step in early, and then he's throwing to guys like Addison, Hawkinson, and obviously Justin Jefferson. So I don't know. Let's see. I'm trying to pull it up quick while stalling with some fill in words.
Yeah, pull up
Gosh.
the odds. I'm just curious, but yeah, with
Okay,
McCarthy,
he is.
obviously, go ahead, Reagan.
Yeah, he is fourth behind Jaden Daniels at plus 650
Yeah.
and Marvin Harrison plus 650. McCarthy's plus 800. And I think the only reason he might be behind Daniels is just because obviously he's more talented and the rushing upside's there. And then if he is to get Washington like playoff contention, like fighting at the end, it means he had the season where these other guys like Williams and McCarthy, like they might get in the playoffs because they have better defenses, although Minnesota's still pretty shaky, but the weapons around them. So I guess it would more so be like, look who's around him and what he was able to do. But yeah, I agree with you on Caleb and McCarthy. Those were my two options. I mean, if you want to throw out another name, you could say, I don't know. I kind of do like McConkey with the Chargers just because I think he's going to fall right into that number one for Justin Herbert, and I think he could put up big numbers. So he's a guy I like. And also Jonathan Brooks with the Panthers, just because if you look at their running back room, all the guys are on the last year of their deals. Like I heard he will be the only running back under contract next year. Obviously, they'll address that when the time comes. But the fact that they traded up for him and used a high value day two pick to get him kind of
Hmm.
shows you that they have no faith in Miles Sanders. I think after this year they can get out of that. And the fact that Miles Sanders basically was a non-factor and not playing, not worried about him. And Chuba Hubbard, I mean, he had a pretty good year, but at the end of the day, I think we've kind of seen what he is, and I don't think he's that difference maker. So I think if Bryce Young is to fully evolve and get to any type of potential that we think he can get to, it's going to be because of him. So I think Jonathan Brooks at plus 5,000 is very sneaky. I mean, obviously, I know he's coming off injury, so who knows if he'll be ready week one. But if he is, I think there's some value there.
Yeah, great point on Brooks, Reagan. If there's one running back that has a shot to win it, it is him. Barring injury, of course. If a starter gets hurt and a guy gets thrown in, but can't predict that. And I like that you mentioned the draft capital they used on him. It was an early day two pick. Those guys usually get a lot of playing time early when you get picked in that slot. So Carolina clearly has a plan for him. Um, Talking about
Yeah,
receivers, I mean, Keon Coleman's got to be down there as a dark horse.
yeah, he's
Now he's not
plus
as
2,500.
yeah, he's not as polished as the guys that got picked towards the top of the draft and the ones that are going to be the favorites. But just speaking situationally with Josh Allen and how bleak that wide receiver room looks, I mean, Josh has got to build up chemistry with a lot of guys. So if Coleman can be that big red zone threat, catch a lot of touchdowns, eclipse 1,000 yards, he could be in the conversation. I don't expect it, but I don't know. That's more of a dark horse than
Yeah,
McCarthy.
definitely. All right, let's get on the defensive side of the ball. So for me, I've been saying it the whole time. Quinion Mitchell. I mean, he's the best corner in the draft in my opinion. I think he could have a Not necessarily a Sauce Gardner type season, but I think he can put up enough numbers and be dominant enough that he can go out and win himself a defensive rookie of the year. And a lot of that speaks to the defensive talent in this draft. I mean, there's a reason these guys fell so much. It's just not as talented, and there just wasn't as big of a need. So I really like him. And then if you want to throw another guy out there, I'll go with Byron Murphy for the Seahawks just because they have such a big need. And I think he's going to fill such a huge hole for that team. And honestly, like the fact that he can get the pressure on the interior as well as stop the run so well, I think the fact that he can do it at both facets is going to be huge. And he's going to be a huge reason why Seattle's able to kind of slap a band aid on that defense that isn't great, whether or not they look good on paper, which they do. They got some names, but just not a great defense overall, but I think if they're able to turn it around, it's because of him.
I love the Murphy call. Also has Leonard Williams lining up next to him, who should draw more attention initially.
Mm-hmm.
So he should get some more one-on-one opportunities from the interior. I mean, it's tough with the edge rushers. Like Latu was the first defender to go. Went to the Colts, and he also has Buckner on the interior that will draw a lot of attention. So I I don't know. It's tough. Party wants to be like, hey, Cooper DeJean could be a sneaky pick. I know you mentioned Mitchell, the corner the Eagles took first,
Yep.
but DeJean could be in more of a playmaker role, like floating around the defense. That if he amasses a lot of INTs, I think he could be in the conversation, and I think he's going to be a tackling machine as well. So more, I mean, it's more likely that it'll be a pass rusher, but so that's why I'd say Latu is probably my one, but I think DeJean is kind of sneaky.
Yeah, no, I don't hate that at all. And plus, I think he might be getting some time at returner. I know they haven't said that yet, but he's a guy that for Iowa last year, he was like one of their top scorers, and he played on defense.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely.
All right, so let's get to Osty's next question. I hate the forums app sometimes. Um, but yeah, Osty, I mean, obviously you took the time to ask these questions, so I am going to take the time to ask them all. So any sleepers for offensive and defensive rookie of the year? We got into that. Who is your favorite rookie not on your favorite team? So no Jets or Giants. Uh, so for me, I'll give you one on
Mm,
both sides. Defense, Quinion Mitchell. I'm just super excited for that guy.
you love
Uh,
that guy.
yeah, I just think he's going to be good, and I'm excited for the situation he went into. And I just like seeing the way he kind of like talked and all that stuff, like about how his mom and grandma were big parts of his life. You kind of fall in love with the player because he's got a story, and you see he's got the heart and was humbled. And he didn't leave Toledo. Like post transfer, in this post transfer role, he didn't do anything like that. You know what I mean? Like he stayed. Like Alabama was hitting him up and he's like, "No, like I want to stay at Toledo." So I respect the shit out of that. So a guy like that that's loyal, like it's good for, and for a city like Philadelphia, if he's good, they're going to embrace him. I mean, if he's not good, they'll let him hear it, but so he's a guy I'm
Mhm.
excited for. And then on the offensive side, I mean, I like McConkey a lot. I'm really excited to see him. And then I also, if I'm going to go with a lineman, I'm I'm pretty excited for Joe Alt as well. I'm excited to see how those two do over in San Diego.
I like that. Number one for me, Keon Coleman, former Michigan State Spartan. Zach and I went to the Peach Bowl in Atlanta a couple years back when Kenny Pickett and Kenneth Walker both sat out, but Jaden Reed and Keon Coleman stepped up big time to get a Sparty win. Coleman was a absolute beast, and that's when I started getting into Sparty football heavily due to my brother being there. So I'm a big Keon Coleman fan. Who else do I like? Obviously, Ricky Pearsall, go Gators. That's
Chop,
my
chop.
guy. And I like Rome Odunze a lot just because I watched so much Washington football last year. They were such a fun team to watch, and Rome Odunze was an absolute stud and won me quite a few bucks. So Rome Odunze has a special place in my heart. You want to touch on the big uglies? I listened to Move the Sticks, Daniel Jeremiah, Bucky Brooks with Graham Barton. And he was just such a down to earth dude, really, really good on the mic, really humble. And I really liked his mentality. So I think he's going to be a solid player as well. And I'm rooting for him.
Yeah. All right. So next up, his next question and final question: which rookie is going to be in a sleeper position in fantasy this season? Or he wants to know, or no, I'm sorry, at every position. So he's basically saying give him a sleeper to draft. Um, well, we'll
Running
we'll
back,
answer from
running back.
yeah, we can do it from a redraft perspective because we're obviously going to get into the dynasty later. So, at the running back position, a sleeper. I mean, It basically would
Tough.
be
They're like
it.
all backups right now.
I mean, I would say I follow Vegas in the sense that the odds speak. So I would say Jalen Wright, the fact that he
Yep.
is the favorite out of all of the rookie running backs to win Rookie of the Year, even over a guy like Jonathan Brooks, who I highlighted, who has a better chance to be a starter. This guy's supposed to be electric. I think I heard like he averaged like 8 or 9 yards per carry throughout his career in
Uh-huh.
college,
Yeah, he ran a
which is
four
just
three right and change Reagan. Burner
yeah,
fits right in Miami's offense perfectly. And it's definitely a crowded room right now with Achan and Mostert, but keep in mind Mostert's 32 and Achan has already shown durability concerns. So Wright can be a factor. Like initially he can be, but odds are one of those guys going to go down at some point and he's going to be a role because they like to have the platoon. And he could be a guy that you could stash and be a spot start when one of those other two guys. And if he doesn't surpass in the depth chart, he could. He absolutely could. That could
yeah,
be in that offense a really good spot start at flex. So I also agree with the Jalen Wright pick. I don't want to say Corum because, yeah, he's going to get some touches, but Les Snead, the Rams GM, came out and said it's just so we don't run Kyron Williams into the ground and kind of lighten his workload a little bit. So I think
yeah.
Kyron is still clearly the number one. Trey Benson, though, that one's sneaky for me because James Conner, although he's still very productive, I think he's going to be, what, 29 this year in the season?
He's getting up there. Yeah, he's been
Yeah,
around
he's
for a
getting up
minute.
there and he's already had a lot of durability concerns and he's been really productive. And that Cardinals offense, I think, they have two good tackles. They got Kyler Murray, they got Marvin Harrison in the room. It can actually be a pretty good offense. Like I'd say probably around average, but more so closer to 12th than 16th. So Benson at some point could be the lead back. So I think that's a sneaky one as well that you could stash late.
Yeah, no, I like that one a lot. Obviously, he was another guy that they invested a day two pick into. So you kind of got to look at the capital. And like you highlighted, James Conner, I mean, he's a guy getting up there in age and hasn't been durable throughout his career. So I could totally see that. So next up, uh, we could get to the wide receiver room. So I guess a sleeper, which I don't know. Like at this point, I don't know if McConkey and Coleman are considered sleepers. I mean,
I don't think they're
I don't think
considered
you consider them
sleepers.
sleepers because I think there's a chance, like in these redraft leagues, that people take them over guys like Romeo Adunes and Malik Neighbors because it's a 1 year thing. And right now they're in the better situation in year one. Like they're not as talented, but situation wise,
I don't know if they take him over Neighbors because Neighbors is the clear number one target in the entire offense, though. Although the quarterback situation isn't great, but
that's what I'm saying. But yeah, but look at McConkey. He's slotted in to be the number one with Justin Herbert, not Daniel
yeah, I
Jones.
I mean,
And that's
is
my
he
thing because
slotted
you're
in as the one though? Because they keep bringing in all these vets. Like I don't know if he's slotted in the number one. Like Josh Palmer's still there, and he's solid. I don't know if he's slot. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he won
I would
it. If he
imagine with
won
the
it, I don't think
capital.
he's slotted in though.
I mean, I would imagine, but yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, a lot will change. We're also talking mid-May. A lot will come out with the depth charts, and we'll get to
Yeah,
watch preseason. I mean, ideally, you shouldn't be doing your drafts till late August. So, like I said, a lot will change. So
I
it's
got a
gonna be
sleeper for
tough.
you, Reagan. How about
Mhm.
Xavier Leggett for the Panthers? They moved up a spot to secure him in the first round. They were starving for more weapons for Bryce Young. I mean, the early returns on who they take last year out of Ole Miss?
Oh, Mingo.
Mingo. Yes, the early returns on Mingo are not great. Obviously, Thielen's still there. They brought in Deontay Johnson, but they're hoping something sticks. And the fact that they moved up one spot to make sure they got Leggett, I think speaks volumes. And he's also an athletic freak, not as polished, but I don't know. I think he could become Bryce Young's favorite target as early as this year.
Yeah, mine's Roman Wilson. Steelers have a gaping hole at wide receiver outside of George Pickens. I mean, they don't have a number two, so I think he could slot right into the number two role there. He was very productive at Michigan. And also, I mean, assuming it's Russell Wilson, I'm going to talk like it's Russell Wilson. I mean, we've seen him have two viable fantasy wide receivers like pretty much all of his career, whether it was Lockett and Baldwin or Lockett or Metcalf. And even last year, like Judy wasn't amazing, but Sutton was very good for fantasy and Judy was flexible. So, it wouldn't be crazy to me that Roman Wilson, and also just with the Steelers' tracked record of developing guys day two and day three has just been off the charts. So you got to go with the history there and just assume he's going to be good. And
Yeah, I like
George
that pick a
Pickens,
lot.
isn't a high volume guy, where I think Wilson can come in and be that high volume target guy and kind of fall into that Deontay Johnson type role, where I think George Pickens still stays as the deep threat, where he may only get 3 catches, but he has 81 yards and a touchdown. So,
I love that pick, Reagan. It's a good one.
thank you. All right,
You want to
so
transition to tight end?
yes, I do.
I got an easy one for you. Theo Johnson, New York Giants.
They're gonna say
Come in the
Brock Bowers.
No, no, no. I mean, Brock Bowers it wasn't a phenomenal tight end draft, but in Theo Johnson's case, one of the most athletic tight ends to enter the league in the past 30 years. I believe he ranked ninth out of like 1,200 tight ends in raw athletic score due to his combine measurables. So was not used as a high volume target at Penn State, but also did not have great quarterback play.
Yeah.
Darren Waller, we still don't know if he's going to play or not. He's still contemplating retirement. And I mean, it's freaking mid-May. You got to make a decision soon. You know what I mean? So if
Apparently he's
Waller
going
does,
through a divorce too.
yeah, him and Kelsey
So
Plummer, yeah, going through a divorce. I don't know if that helps or hurts the case for him to come back and play. I'd like to see him come back and play another year because, yeah, he's not going to give you a full season, but he's still pretty solid when he's out there. He's still a mismatch. I think, and they've lost faith in Daniel Bellinger. It seems like he blew a lot of blocking assignments last year. Was never supposed to be a real receiving threat. So I think the athletic ability of Theo Johnson paired with the situation where the Giants needed to add more weapons, I think he's a sleeper. You got Sanders in Carolina, you got Sinnott in Washington, but it's really not a great tight end class.
no, not great. But a guy I like a lot, Ben Sinnott, Kansas State. I mean, this guy was like a Swiss Army knife. They were throwing him in the slot. He was playing tight end. He was playing fullback, getting carries. I'm excited for him, and he goes to Washington, a team that doesn't have a ton of talent. And they get Jaden Daniels, another weapon. I mean, technically they have Zach Ertz. Do I expect him to be
Come
the
on, dude.
starter?
There's no way they trot
Maybe
out
not.
Zach
But
Ertz to
if there's
start the
anything I've
full
noticed,
season.
yeah, and if there's anything I've noticed with Zach Ertz, he's pretty good at sitting in front of a very good young tight end, and then once he leaves, he lets him shine. Dallas Goedert, Trey McBride, Ben Sinnott, just the third of many to come. So I'm excited for that, and I think he even gets a couple touches, maybe runs one in as well. So I just think there's some high upside there, just because they're gonna try to manufacture different touches for a guy that's very versatile and has done it at different positions at Kansas State.
I like that one.
I
That's
mean,
good.
quarterbacks. I don't think we have to go into that. I mean,
Nah, we're
it's
not.
just
We
the
don't have to go into
6, and you're
quarterbacks.
probably
Yeah.
only going to be able to start Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, maybe May, maybe.
I'd say more so McCarthy than May.
Yeah, but I was saying May more so just because of the athletic ability. Well, McCarthy's very athletic as well. I just know May is just physical freak, but those guys almost seem more like matchup streaming dependent. And who knows with Bo Nix? And I doubt Penix touches the field this year. And if he does, it's because of injury, which I'm not going to
Yeah.
predict. So you're not playing Bo Nix, or I mean
Yep.
Michael Penix, and
Yep.
Zach Wilson's going to be the starter. So you're not playing Bo Nix. Okay.
No way.
All right. So that was all Austie had. Thank you, Mr. Austie. And next and finally, we're gonna go to Trock.
Oh, Drock submitted some questions, huh?
Yeah, so he goes biased Reagan and unbiased Colin. Opinion on the Jets' first half of the season. Rodgers is low key like that under the lights.
Dude, wait, this has nothing to do with the topic, Drock, dude. He probably had one or two old fashions at the airport.
Yeah, I will say, let me pull up the stat he's referring to, but you can go first, just so for some context, because he texted me a graphic the other day.
My thoughts on the Jets beginning of the season under
Like
the
first half.
lights.
Like, well, no. The whole Rodgers thing was in primetime games at home. Rodgers' record is 92-23-1.
Hmm.
So he has he wins 4 out of every 5 games when he's at home. So he's a beast. And I guess he's basically saying because the Jets have, like we highlighted earlier, they have 6 primetime games. He just kind of like wants to know your thoughts on where you see the Jets after, I guess you could say the first 11 since he threw in the primetime thing. Where do you kind of see them at?
I mean, I got to pull up the schedule, but we talked about earlier they have a pretty cupcake schedule to start the season. I don't expect them to go in and beat San Francisco week 1, but they should beat the Titans. They should beat the Patriots, which is a primetime game. They should beat Denver. They have the Minnesota game, 9:30 a.m. in London. I think that one, I don't want to just mark that as a win because if McCarthy actually comes out the gate playing well with the talent around him, he's got two phenomenal tackles to protect him. He's got the receiving core. He's got O'Connell to lead the way, calling plays. Vikings could be sneaky, so I don't want to mark that as a win. Bills, they're at home, prime time. They won in MetLife last year without Aaron Rodgers, so hopefully they get it done again for you, Reagan. Steelers, prime time. That one's on the road. I think they should win that, but the Steelers play tough football. It's really tough to win in Pittsburgh. Don't want to mark that down as a win. I don't know how many games I'm in right now, but they got New England. That should be a win. I don't care if they're on the road, although they do have their troubles in New England. That should be a win.
Old regime.
And then they got prime time against Houston on Halloween. I mean, that's a phenomenal game.
Yeah,
that's going to be a fun one. I don't want to mark that as a win, but I mean, I think they should, at a minimum, through the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games, at a minimum, they should have 5 wins. They should have, I mean, realistically, 6-3 is not out of the question. Like, I think that's pretty respectable. 7-2 could happen.
Yeah, I'm happy anywhere between 5 to 7 wins at that point. Just because it's easy in the first 5, but then it gets tough because you can't say like the Bills, Steelers, Texans are easy wins in the 49ers. So if we can at least go 2-2 in those 4 games, I'm happy with that. And ideally, I hope we at least go 3-1, if not 4-0, against the Patriots, Titans, Broncos, Vikings stretch. And like the Vikings is very trappy to me, not only because obviously the Vikings have some talent, but just the fact it's in London, you never know how the team's going to travel.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, Jock. I mean, I love talking about my Jets, so I'm not gonna complain about that question. Next up, he goes, talk to me about McCarthy. Bum. I can't see him getting picked up anywhere from rounds 1 through 3 in a redraft.
Well, no shit, Dave. Have you ever done a redraft league before, dude? What kind of comment was that? He's not even going to be a top 15 fantasy quarterback off the board, and a lot of quarterbacks don't go. I mean, if you're taking a quarterback around 2 or 3, good luck. You're not winning the league, but yeah, it's terrible question.
Let's pretend he's talking Dynasty. I still think he gets drafted in Dynasty. There's no way he doesn't get drafted in 1 through 3. I'm going to pretend that's what you meant because obviously in redraft.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously he's getting picked in the first 3 rounds of a Dynasty league, even if it's a 1 quarterback league, which is the mock we're going to do later. He's still getting picked.
I hope that's
probably
what he
get
meant.
picked. He'd probably get picked the end of round 2, beginning of round 3 is what I'm assuming in a 1 quarterback league.
He said redraft, but that's funny because, yeah, no, I mean, I was looking at him with my first pick in the first round of a redraft. So,
yeah, I really wanted the Justin Jefferson, JJ McCarthy stack, so I had to make sure I snagged McCarthy early with the first pick.
He goes, Malik Neighbors, offensive rookie of the year. That's not really a question.
It's just more of a comment because you got his jersey. Now, for the case of Malik Neighbors, offensive rookie of the year, just so we can get this out of the way, right? He's got the second best odds. Or no, third. No, fifth? Fifth?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a reason he's fifth. It's not because of the talent. It's because the tandem of Daniel Jones and Drew Lock is not great.
No.
But no more Saquon Barkley. Malik Neighbors will get funneled a ton of targets, and I mean, the Dable offense preaches separation from the receivers, and Neighbors was the best at that in this class. So I expect him to get a ton of targets in the short to intermediate range, which will open up for him. And then you have Hyatt going over top to take the top off the defense, which also helps him. So I wouldn't be shocked if he gets 150 targets this year. I really wouldn't. But if he stays healthy, I really wouldn't, which means he could have over 100 catches and put up gaudy stats.
Gaudy, what a word there. Wow.
Yeah, come on, dude. Come on. But yeah, that's my case for it. Well, I sprinkle on it
today. Was that the word?
I don't do Wordle, man. I just got these words just trapped in my brain. But
damn.
Yeah, he could be in contention just based off pure volume. But then again, their Giants are not going to be top of the league in scoring touchdowns, and touchdowns are important for offensive rookie of the year. So I don't know. We saw Garrett Wilson won it though, and he had a little bit over 1,000. So
yeah, no, I mean it's possible.
there's a lot of competition this year. Like,
Yeah.
there's a reason the first defensive player didn't go to 15th in the draft. It's a loaded offensive draft class.
Yeah. Next up, he goes, name that felt member drunk in Maui right now. My
Well,
hands up first.
he's not actually. I'll check his location right now. He's not in Maui. He has a long flight from Vegas, or no, from Denver to Maui.
Huh.
Okay,
So if
he's
he's not in
currently
Maui, do
he's
we know
currently in
where?
the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Okay, so that means it couldn't be Dave. Do we know? I know Zach's home. Garrett's at my house. Caleb's in Florida last time I checked, so that means it's either Ryan or Luke because I don't know where they are. I'll go with Ryan.
Yeah, I don't.
He
I don't know
doesn't
if
have an
Ryan's.
answer here, so I'm not sure. Do you want to take a guess?
No, I don't know. It looks like Dave's plane is pretty far from Hawaii in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. He's
So
got a
it
long
couldn't
ways to
be
go.
Dave. So I guess is it Ryan or Luke if you had to guess?
I'd probably guess Ryan.
Okay, so we both are saying Ryan, so hopefully it's Ryan. Otherwise, I guess we're both wrong. All right, so his final thing is segment or punishment idea. So here we go. Colin has to run in a speedo from first to 14th if the Giants season total. Wait, either I'm an idiot or I can't read it. He goes, Colin has to run in a speedo from first to 14th if the Giants season total wins hits. Do you know what that means? What's a first? Oh, is that
Well,
like a baseball thing?
no, dude. 14th Street is where we live in Hoboken.
Oh,
I have to run in a speedo from first to 14th. That's over a mile, so I have to
if
do a
the
mile
Giants
run in a
season total
speedo.
wins hit. So if the
So
Giants
if
win,
the over hits, why am I? Why would I do that if
Reagan
if
has
my
to run in
team?
a speedo from Voorhees to a key if the Jets season total wins hits.
Okay, so we're rooting for our teams, and to celebrate our teams having good seasons, we got to get in speedos and just book it.
Though the best part is at least my team at that point would have made the playoffs. Like there's a chance your win total hits and you guys still miss the
Yeah,
playoffs.
what
So
is
you're
it?
just
7.5?
I don't even think I think it's like 5.5. The
No
Giants.
way. It's 5. It's probably
Yeah.
6. It's probably in the middle of
But
us.
still, like there's a chance they go like 7-10, miss the playoffs. You have like the 14th pick in the draft, and you're
Yeah,
like,
exactly, Reagan. I'm like,
woo!
we went 7-10, baby. I get to run in a speedo, and we have the 14th pick in the draft. What a great season to celebrate.
I think there's something that could be done there. I mean, I would even go out in the speedo, and maybe we could come up with a punishment. That would be a good weekly punishment, and I'll have to come out and visit, and I could help film when calling us to run in a speedo. But let's see.
You
I'll
forgot.
pull.
You're talking to the big bet king, bro. I whooped that ass last year.
Yeah. Okay. When's the last time you did a punishment, chump? Now
When was the last time
we
you
got to
did a
film a
punch?
lot of punishments.
Yeah, it's tough
They're
when we move. If
slacking.
the move out makes it tough. But it
Yeah.
is what it is.
Where the hell? I can't find it, but wins. Here we go. Giants win total is 6.5.
Six and a
So
half.
if
Yep, right
when
in the
they go
middle.
7-10 and miss the playoffs, you will be running in a speedo, but very happy that your team won their over in games.
I will say I'm not calling Giants playoffs, but over 6.5, I love that because the defense is going to be really
You're
good.
getting
So
plus money too.
they'll play a lot of low scoring, ugly games, and they could win that way with the defense and the pass rush they have. So I do like the over 6.5.
Hey, I mean they're giving you plus money as well, so
Ooh, I gotta place that.
yeah, right now live on the pod. Um, yeah, but if you're ready, I am ready. Let's now dive into our mock draft. So the way we're gonna do it is we're gonna go back and forth. We're gonna do 3 rounds, so 36 picks, 12 man, full point PPR, one QB league. We couldn't find a website that would actually let us do the mock,
Yeah, could
so
not.
it's just gonna be more of a basic thing where we're just kind of going back and forth. Nothing crazy to
The
it.
old
There's
fashioned
nothing.
way.
You just use your ears. Don't use your eyes. Otherwise, you're going to be staring at two ugly mugs throughout this. So just listen. Just
Reagan, do you
listen.
want the honors of the first pick?
Yeah, I will. So I'll just go Marvin Harrison. That's the easy pick there. He's the guy with the highest ceiling. You're not going to go. It's fantasy. You're not, and it's not a super flex. You're not going one of the quarterbacks. Um, and how would you take a any other player over this guy? I mean, he was the first skilled player taken outside of a quarterback. So home run play here should be very good year one. Might even be a top 12 fantasy wide receiver overall in year one.
Yeah, that's the easy choice. Number two, I'm gonna go Malik Neighbors. I touched on the offensive rookie of the year
Ooh.
stuff. I already gave my explanation as to why the volume is gonna be there, the big playability is gonna be there. He can take a slant to the house. I think even with poor quarterback play, he'll get a ton of volume and will still be good in fantasy. Now, for Dynasty, looking past 1 year, the talent is ridiculous. He's getting comps to Jamar Chase, which is nuts. But if the Giants get the next Jamar Chase, woo, I'm going to be very happy. But even for the long term, you got to think they'll probably address the quarterback situation next off season. Malik Neighbors is still the guy.
Yeah, so here there's two choices to me. You either go Rome or you go Brock Bowers.
Yep.
I'm going Brock Bowers here just because
Woo!
right now, like if you compare the two teams, obviously the Bears have their future quarterback. The Raiders quarterback's murky, but the Raiders' weapons. Devontae Adams is eventually out. Jacoby Myers is getting up there in age. Where the Bears, they got a young guy in Cole Kmet under contract. DJ Moore is still very young. Like he came
Yeah,
in
he's like
young.
26.
Yeah. Keenan Allen, yeah, he's gonna be gone soon. But they still got two very young weapons around him where the Raiders data like Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers, they're older guys. Like Jacoby Myers is still on the younger side, but they're not going to be there for a long time. And Michael Mayer, like clearly they didn't believe in him enough if they were willing to spend a top pick to get Brock Bowers when they had way bigger holes. So to me, I'm going to go Bowers just because I think he has the potential to be that Kelsey-esque player at a position where it is when you can get one of those game changers, it puts you at a whole nother level. So I'm going Bowers here.
I don't hate the pick, Reagan. Yeah, tight ends much more difficult to find than wide receivers in Dynasty. So, when you have a guy go in the top half of the first round, they're going to be very, very valuable in Dynasty formats. And with Michael Mayer, he is a better blocker than Bowers, but don't get it twisted. Bowers is a much, much, much better receiving threat. He's a much cleaner route runner. So, although it might look crowded right now for targets, Bowers could become the number two in that entire offense behind Devontae Adams year one. And the Raiders actually were so stuck on who to pick at 13. It was between Bowers and Terrion Arnold, who fell to Detroit in the back later, way later in the first round. I believe it was 28. Um, and the coin landed on Brock. So they told Mayer they love him, but they're taking Brock. They had a coin flip, and they both will coexist. But I don't hate the Bowers pick. And then that leaves me with an easy choice. I'm going Romo Dunze. Yeah, he's wide receiver 3 out the gate, but it should be a high scoring offense if Caleb Williams lives up to his potential. Keenan Allen has had durability concerns. So if he were to miss time, Odunze will step in and get a ton of targets. And also, he's already built a rapport with Caleb Williams. They're buddies. They've been training together before they both were drafted by Chicago. I think that relationship will help, and Caleb will want to get his guy Rome some targets. And for long term play, Keenan Allen seems more like a rental to me than a long term solution given his age, and he has 1 year left on his deal. So in the long run, paired with Caleb Williams, Roma Dunze is a phenomenal pick at number 4.
All right. So I'm number 5. This is a no-brainer to me. A lot of people might say, hey, take Caleb Williams or one of the quarterbacks here. I'm going Jonathan Brooks here. I do not believe in drafting quarterbacks early. I know it's dynasty and it's long term, but at the end of the day, I would rather have 5 good years of Jonathan Brooks, who could be a top 12 running back, versus taking a quarterback. And that's more so whether or not Caleb Williams ends up being one of the like what he's supposed to be. That doesn't mean he's going to be this elite next level fantasy quarterback. Like he could be a great NFL quarterback, but at the end of the day, he's top 3 fantasy, top 5 fantasy. And it's not like he's putting you over that edge where Jonathan Brooks at the running back position, it's such a valuable position where the quarterback, like, I don't know, the gap's usually not that big where it's the gap between 1 and 12, or even you could say usually 1's like an outlier. That guy's like way and above. But the gap between 12 and like maybe 3, you could say, usually is only like a point difference. So to me, it's just looking at positional value. So I'm going Jonathan Brooks here. And maybe I'll live to regret it. And maybe Caleb Williams is a top fantasy quarterback year in and year out. But I don't see that happening. I just think there's enough good quarterbacks out there that are still very young where I feel comfortable taking Brooks here.
Wow. I'm surprised he went number 5, but I don't hate it. And yeah, this is why I prefer super flex leagues so much more than a one quarterback league, just because the quarterbacks become the most valuable position again in Dynasty like they are in real football. So Caleb Williams would go number one or number two in a super flex league.
Yeah, 100%. It's also look at the running backs. There's not a lot of clear cut running backs in this draft, so you're basically getting the guy that is the only one you could say is going to most likely be the day one starter. I mean, he's got some injury concerns, but outside of him, the rest of them are very murky. So there's not many guys here. So, and that running back pick becomes a lot more valuable because then you could try to go ship them and stuff, and it gets all interesting because running back's a hard position to find. So
Yeah, I'm gonna shock some people here. Number 6, I'm going Lad McConkey. Uh,
lad,
yes, I'm picking Lad over Xavier Worthy. I don't know if I want to do that, but I'm gonna stick to it. With Justin Herbert, he lost his 2 best targets this offseason. We've touched on it. It's Josh Palmer, it's Quentin Johnson, who did not look good, and it's Lad. And they did bring in some vets. I'm forgetting DJ Chark, I believe they brought in,
yeah,
but that's really not too exciting to me. So I think Lad, as a really good route runner, will become Justin Herbert's best friend over the middle of the field. And I think in a full point PPR, he can become a machine and rack up a lot of receptions.
yeah,
Where
it's
I will say why I didn't take Worthy. I know the Rashi Rice legal situation's murky. We don't know yet. Hollywood Brown's there. He does have drop problems. So I don't know if he's going to be a fan favorite, but Kelsey's still there. They did transition more to running the football last year, even with Mahomes, keeping that defense fresh. I know they used the capital and they moved up and got Worthy, but it just seems a little crowded to me. I don't know. But I think Worthy, like, he could totally be the number one guy this year if all the pieces fall in the right way with Patrick Mahomes as quarterback. But I don't know. It's just preference. It's tough, man. There's a lot of really good receivers here in different situations, and it's tough to pick between them.
Yeah, so at 7, I went Caleb Williams. I mean, at this point, there's no wide receivers or running backs where I'm like, they could be that game changer to me. Where Caleb Williams, he's the best quarterback available. If he really is what they say he'll be, I mean, this is a guy that should be your starter for the future. I mean, this should be a guy you could plug in and start for your fantasy roster for 10 years at least. So, no brainer there, but I'm curious to see where you go at 8 now that he's off the board.
Yeah, I mean, I was really tempted to take him at 6, but I ended up going with Lad. And now I'm going to take Worthy. I'm going to take Worthy at 8 here. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's a good
Now
spot
he's
for him.
worthy of the
If he
pick.
lives, yeah, now he's worthy of the pick. If he lives up to it, man, because he's not just a burner. People want to talk about John Ross and this and that. He's not a John Ross. He's a much cleaner route runner than John Ross was. He is a little frail, but we've seen Devontae Smith had no problems with that in the league. So I think with Patrick Mahomes, if you get Worthy at 8, you're pretty excited.
All right, so 9. Now it comes down. You know what? I'm just gonna go with Keon Coleman. To
Yeah, good
me,
pick.
just
Good
because
pick.
you could go Brian Thomas. There's a couple other guys you could go, but Keon Coleman, you're pairing him with Josh Allen. So to me, if you can get him at 9, with that him as his quarterback and the chance to be the number one wide receiver right off the bat, love it. I mean, you already saw the kid's got a personality, which is cool. It's always good to see these guys are lively and stuff. So seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders, and I mean the upside's there. So I'm taking him at 9 and hoping he becomes Allen's number one wide receiver for years.
Love it. I was going to take him, but I will take Brian Thomas. Christian Kirk's there. He has a great relationship with Trevor Lawrence, but obviously Calvin Ridley joined the division rival Tennessee Titans. There is a hole there at wide receiver. Evan Ingram got a ton of targets last year. It's not an ideal situation, but Thomas led the nation in receiving touchdowns last year. Phenomenal red zone threat. Freak athlete, ran a 4.3, built like a brick house. I think he could be phenomenal for Trevor Lawrence. And, it's a team that does need help at receiver. Thomas should step in and score. I wouldn't be shocked if he had 10 touchdowns as a rookie, to be honest with you.
The number 11, I'm going Jaden Daniels. I mean, this is a guy who has Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, you name it, like Mike Vick, rushing ability. Plus, obviously, he's a great pocket passer as well. So I think with that upside, he could be the number one fantasy quarterback any season. So if you can give me that, a wild card like that late in the first round, and if you're in that situation with the 11th pick, assuming it's not traded, that means you came in second in your fantasy league last year. So you don't need the guy to be your day one starter. So you're getting yourself a little wild card to sit on your bench with the potential to be a top 3 fantasy quarterback, if not the number one fantasy quarterback every year with that rushing upside.
Yeah, I like that, Reagan. This is where it really gets tough because it's like, the running backs aren't ideal at this point, but you could be in a position with your roster where you have a ton of receivers and you just don't have the running back depth, and it makes sense. Like, I will go Trey Benson here, and that's kind of just with the thought that this is probably Connor's last year in Arizona. And Benson was really good at Florida State last year. And I also am not convinced that Connor will play a full season. So I think Benson, for at least a decent chunk of the season, can be startable for you in that Arizona offense. And I think if you're a team that needs running backs, it's not an ideal running back draft. So do not reach on one. But if Benson falls at 12 and you don't want to have a dart throw on one of these receivers and pick which one you want, I think that's a pretty solid pick.
Yeah, so now we get into the second round. This is where it's dart throws at this point. I mean, there's still some pretty big names, but at the end of the day, who knows? I throw ADP out the window. It's all about taking your shot once you get to the late first, early second. Go get who you want. Who cares what Sleeper, ESPN, or whatever platform you're on is playing? Just go get your guy. So I'm going Ricky Pearsall here just because,
Woo!
look, his coach is freaking Kyle Shanahan. This guy just gets himself a weapon and just finds different ways to get the guy involved, drawing up plays. And, who knows with the wide receiver situation, if how many more years Debo's there. And if Ayuk, obviously, he's on the last year of his deal. So is he there after this year? A lot of murkiness there. And even if they are, I mean, still, that's a high powered offense that can put up a lot of points. Like, give me a piece of it. I don't care if it's low volume to start. Like, these guys will leave, and Kyle Shanahan will be there for a long time. So I'll take him. So I'm curious who you going at the 202.
I'm going to go Xavier Legette. Touched on him earlier, how he can be Bryce Young's number one target as a rookie. Athletic freak. They're starving to get Bryce Young help. They moved up to get him. They believe in him. They're going to force him on the field. I think at this point, Legette's a pretty good pick. The targets should be there as long as he isn't a total bust like Mingo.
All right. So I'm up next. I am actually going to go with Troy Franklin. I am excited for the fact that he is being paired with his college quarterback, Bo Nix. I mean, come on now. Troy Franklin was very productive. He was a guy I actually thought might go in the first round, if not early in day 2. So he fell completely. It's giving him a chip on his shoulder, but at the end of the day, the Broncos got to see a ton of stuff on him. I know he came with Bo Nix to his workout for the Broncos. So I just have a lot of hopes here, and there's not outside of Cortland Sutton, like that wide receiver room is wide open. Like he could easily slide into the number 2 role. And I don't know how long Cortland Sutton will be there long term for this team. So if Bo Nix really is the true deal and does end up becoming the future of that team, give me his college teammate who he had a ton of production with in his Heisman nominee season, Troy Franklin.
I like that. I really like that. I'm going to go AD Mitchell here at 2.04, 16th overall. Slid in the draft a lot farther than people expected. There were talks the Colts could target receiver at 15. Ultimately, they were pumped to get Latu. But if Anthony Richardson can continue to build off what he showed in the first 5 or 6 games he played last year before getting hurt, this could be a really high-powered offense with Jonathan Taylor, with Michael Pittman, with Josh Downs in the slot, and Mitchell as the other guy out wide. Richardson has a cannon of an arm, such a threat on the ground. I think this Colts team will score a lot of points, and Mitchell has the size to be a really good red zone threat. I think Mitchell should be a good starter for the Colts this year and should get a decent amount of volume. It's also a little bit more of a long-term play. I think he'll develop a little bit more as the seasons go by. But, at this point of the draft, you can't hate the upside there.
Yeah, and that's totally okay because at the end of the day, you have taxi spots. So if you're like, you could throw him in there and you're not burning a roster spot. So I think at this point, like, especially if you're a team that's contending, like, take the shot on the wild card that you think has a better days ahead and just throw him in your taxi spot. So I have no problem with that. At the 205, I'm going Roman Wilson. I don't need to get
Saw that
crazy
one.
into it. I highlighted it before. So just a guy that I think is in a great situation with a team that's great at developing wide receivers. And I think he has a clear path to become the number 2 behind Pickens. So, all right, you're up at the 206.
I'm not gonna lie. At 206, this is steal. Jalen Wright, running back for the Dolphins. Touched on it earlier. Mostert, 32 years old. I mean, he's defying time, father time for running backs by still being productive at his age. It's a high-powered offense. HN is a little fragile. This is more. I mean, it could be really good for you this year if the chips fall that way. But long-term play, I think it's going to be more of a committee with Jalen Wright and Devon HN as the next couple years go by. And as we saw last year, both Dolphins running backs were startable.
Yeah. No, I mean, I no complaints there. He's a guy with a lot of high upside, and it's a wild card tick. At this point, you're just throwing a dart and hoping it sticks. I mean, there's a chance half these guys in round 2 and 3 you like don't amount to anything. Most of them won't, but you got to take your shots. So I respect it. I'm gonna go at the 205, right? Or 20, no,
No,
207.
207.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Marshawn Lloyd for the Packers. I mean, Josh Jacobs, they did pay him in the offseason, but the way the contract's structured, they can get out after 1 year. And the fact that they spent a day 2 pick on him. I mean, he is an older guy. He's 23. So, but he's was very talented and put up a lot of production in college. So I'm excited for what he can become. And I look at it as the fact that AJ Dillon sucks. So this guy could be thrown into the number 2 role. And the Packers utilized a lot of 2 running backs last year. So maybe he's a guy you can flex this year. But at the end of the day, he's a guy where, hey, I like the situation because I don't see Jacobs or Dillon being around for a long time.
All right, I'm stopping the slide. Drake May at pick 20. You know, it's a 1 quarterback league. This is our 3rd quarterback gone off the board, but there's a reason he's picked 3rd overall. It's just too good to pass up at this point in the draft. You know, all the intangibles, the 6'4" frame, the big arm, the athleticism. He can be a top 12 fantasy quarterback year in and year out if he lives up to his potential. Will not happen now. This is stack him on your taxi slot for year 1, bench him in year 2. This might not pay dividends for a few years, but the value is too good to pass up.
Yeah, I like that. All right, at the 209, I'm going with JJ McCarthy because I'm the team behind you. I'm panicking. 3 of the quarterbacks went, and I'm like, hey, McCarthy's just as talented, maybe not just as talented, but damn near close to as talented as Drake May, but he's got the weapons. So give me him. I'll probably throw him on my taxi spot in year 1. You know, I don't expect this guy to be a startable asset in year 1, but I'm excited to see his growth. And hey, if there's a point where he is good, you can take him off the taxi spot at any point. You just can't put him back on. So I'm fine plugging this guy there and letting him sit. And if I'm like, whoa, I could start him, he's having maybe not CJ Stroud level production, but top 12 fantasy quarterback production year 1, I'll take his ass off. But yeah, that's what I'm taking at the 209.
Yep, we had the same thought process there. Too good of a value to pass up. I'm going to go with Jalen Polk at pick 22. He was really good at Washington, had some injury concerns, but his production would have been a ton more in that offense if he wasn't playing with Romo Dunze and Jalen McMillan. Polk was legit, like actually legit. And the Patriots took him in the 2nd round to pair with Drake May.
What's up?
Hopefully, those 2 young guys build a good rapport. But Polk is the receiver to have in New England at this time.
Breaking news: Jacob Batoff has just walked into my garage. Shake and
Oh,
bake.
good. We're almost done with the pod anyway, so thank God he just showed up.
He goes, yo. So yeah, now 211. I'm gonna take Blake Corum here. While I don't love the situation he got thrown into, I think there was many better situations. I mean, Kyron Williams was the 2nd best fantasy running back last year outside of Christian McCaffrey. And is still very young. I got to go with the talent. I mean, this guy put up a ton of production at Michigan, and I'll take the dart throw at the 211. Worst case, nothing comes out of it. Best case, maybe they're in a timeshare this year and you can utilize both. Or hey, down the line, maybe he's a guy low. What's the word I'm looking for? low tread on the tires, and he's like a guy like Tevin Coleman maybe with Atlanta, where he has production, but then gets a big contract to go somewhere else, and it pans out. Because we've seen these guys low production, then go get a contract to be the guy. I mean, Jerick McKinnon, another guy that comes to mind. He had a big ACL injury as soon as he got to San Fran, but he was expected to be that guy. So I'll take the dart throw and hope that something happens there and the talent works out.
Yeah, Corum's actually ranked 27 spots ahead of Wright. And this is like full Dynasty draft rankings. So not just rookies, but he's 27 slots ahead of Wright and 30 ahead of Lloyd.
Yeah.
So we took the other two backs ahead of him because we like the situation. But that Rams offense is really high powered. And Corum, Kyron Williams is young, but I don't know. With Corum, for me, it's like if you have Kyron, taking Corum is really smart. That's a really good handcuff to have. All right. This is where it gets really tough, brother.
I know. How are you gonna end out? How are you gonna end round two?
Man.
How are you gonna do it?
You know what? Give me Malachi Corley.
All right.
And I'm taking Corley here because I don't believe in Alan Lazard or Randall Cobb. They're kind of just there for the vibes. They're there because they're Rodgers' buddy. And I think Corley could be wide receiver 3 out the gate. And that's assuming that Mike Williams is healthy, which he's always had injury concerns, coming back off a major knee injury. And this should be a high scoring offense with Aaron Rodgers back. So I like Corley. You know, I think he's going to be a solid player. The yak ability is disgusting. Definitely a crowded offense for, you know, a lot of mouths to feed, but Corley can be really good, I think, as a rookie. And not just as a rookie, but as they transition. Mike Williams is not going to be there for very long. So it should be him and Garrett Wilson long term.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm excited for this guy, and he obviously like he put up a ton of production in college. So, and the fact that we decided to trade up for him, kind of speaks volume, and we did use that day 2 capital on him. So that ends round 2. We're in the round 3. I'm gonna take Ben Sinnott, a guy I was highlighting earlier. He goes as the number 2 tight end in this draft, and I think he is a clear cut tight end number 2. I think his potential upside, while he might not be viable to start year 1, most tight ends aren't. You probably aren't throwing him in your taxi spot because you might be able to stream him in weeks because the tight end position's rough. So there might be weeks where you got to throw him in. I just think the upside with the potential to get some carries out of the backfield, play a little bit in the slot, play a little tight end. I think they're going to use him a lot and try to manufacture some touches. So I'm going with him with a 301. So you're up at 302.
Okay. I'm going to go Audric Estime, running back for Denver.
Wow.
Estime, yeah, it's you know, this is at this point, man, in round 3,
Taking
if you're just
shots.
sitting there going, I know a lot of people don't know a lot of these guys at this point. If you're just sitting there taking 8 like best player available, I wouldn't hate it. But if you actually like know players at this point, like pick your guy. Don't just go off ADP. You don't know. Estime was really good at Notre Dame. Yeah, he ran a slow 40 time. Don't really care. He's a bruiser. He should score a lot of touchdowns. And Javonte Williams has never fully recovered from that knee injury. Sean Payton has no ties to Javonte Williams. So I don't think they're going to want to pay Javonte.
No.
So Estime could be a sneaky play. Maybe not year 1, you won't get the rewards, but year 2, year 3, he could develop into the starter if they don't want to pay Javonte Williams.
All right. So I'm up at the 303. And like you said, it's getting rough out there. But you know what? I like the talent of Michael Penix more than Bo Nix. So I'll take the shot on him. I'll throw him in my taxi.
Oh, my God. I wish a taxi spot would work for 3 years with that pick.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still going to take it here and just throw him on the taxi spot for year 1, let him sit on the bench for year 2, and then hope that he will play. Because look at what happened with Jordan Love. I know the process behind it is dumb of where the capital was, but Jordan Love sat for 3 full seasons, played a little bit, didn't show much, but now look where he is. He is a top 12 quarterback, and you got him for what, a 3rd round pick, so it's a lottery ticket at the end of the day. But at this point, all these guys are lottery tickets, and at least here you could say the capital is there, where with all these other guys outside of Bo Nix, the capital is not there.
Yeah, I'm going to go at pick 29, Jermaine Burton, receiver for the Bengals. They took him in the 3rd round in this past draft. He ran a 4.45 40. Uh, really was not that productive in college. Never topped 800 yards. This is more so there's no more Tyler Boyd in the picture, and if the T Higgins thing just blows up, or I mean, I don't think they're going to pay him the money he wants, so he could be gone after this year. And although I do anticipate the Bengals would add another receiver next year, a more high profile player, if Burton shows flashes and they believe in him, he could be solid. I mean, at this point, if you can get the number two wide receiver in Cincinnati, that's what you're praying for behind Jamar Chase in that offense with Joe Burrow. That would be a home run at this point of the draft. So that's what you're kind of banking on here.
All right. So I am up with pick 5 of the third round. Oh, you know, I'm gonna
Which
go with
backup running back do you want to take, huh?
yeah. I think I'll go with Bucky Irving just because Rock White just super inefficient. You know, like he's not. He just did it purely on volume last year. I mean, Bucky
Yeah.
Irving, still a young guy, very similar skill set to White, but the fact that they still went out and got him, and he was he was at Oregon and very productive there. So I'll take the shot on him and just hope that hey, maybe not this year, but next year or when it comes time to pay White, they're like, we got Bucky Irving, White can walk. So I'll take the shot on Irving.
Okay. I'm going to go Jatavion Sanders, tight end for the Panthers out of Texas University, was picked in he was the first pick in the fourth round. He actually, most draft analysts thought that he was the tight end two in the draft, but he did slide. And this is purely, as I mentioned earlier with Leggett, they're trying to throw a lot of talent in the offense and see what sticks. And his only competition on that Carolina depth chart at tight end is Tommy Tremble, which, to be honest, he should beat him out. So I don't think Sanders will ever be a top 5, maybe even top 8, maybe even top 10 fantasy asset. But, maybe him and Bryce Young hit it off.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. At the end of the day, you're just taking a shot, so why not? I'll go Bo Nix here. He's still on the board, so you're just taking a startable quarterback, and you're like, hey, maybe everything Sean Payton's saying about this guy, maybe he is the next Drew Brees, and maybe he does have some productive years. Because, look, if he is like that, Drew Brees was very viable for fantasy. And I'm not saying this guy will ever amount to anything close to that, but at this point, you're taking a lottery take and you're looking at what his ceiling is. And his ceiling is potentially that. Like Sean Payton wouldn't just say that if he didn't see Drew Brees in him and want to use him like Drew Brees. So yeah, I'll cash in the lottery ticket here, and I'll or maybe I guess I'm not cashing in, but I'm buying the lottery ticket here. Hopefully, I'm cashing it in years to come. But
Okay.
yeah, that's who I'm going with.
I'm going to take Luke McCaffrey at pick 32. Transitioned over from quarterback. He was recruited as a quarterback, just started playing receiver in 2022. We all know the bloodlines, his father, his brother, freaky athletic family. We have seen guys go into college as a quarterback, make the switch to receiver, and have really productive careers. I know we have Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson atop the depth chart, but there's no more Curtis Samuel. McCaffrey could win the number 3 job. I'm betting on athleticism here. That's all it is.
Yeah, hey, I don't hate it. All right, so I'm going with the Giants tight end Theo Johnson. I mean, obviously we talked
Yeah.
about it a lot before, but he's a physical specimen, 6'6", 264. He's a beast. So give me that, and especially in the red zone. And obviously, you know, Bellinger clearly is not the answer. Darren Waller, who knows where he's at, and even if he's there, he's not the answer. He was terrible last year. So I think there's a clear path for this guy to become the number 1 guy there. And while he may never become one of the top targets, it's just at the end of the day taking a lottery pick, and the situation's there for him to slide into the number 1 tight end spot. So I'll take the shot on him and bet on the athleticism.
Nice. There's a couple guys I want here. I know I have 2
Yep.
more picks,
Yeah, you have 2, I have
but
1.
I'm going to go Jalen McMillan. I have now selected all 3 Washington wide receivers. McMillan's in
Wow.
Tampa Bay. Tough to be behind Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, but McMillan is a deep threat. He adds a different element, and I loved watching him at Washington. I mean, he was phenomenal. So I'm going to go with the speed of McMillan. He adds a different element to the offense here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate that at all. All right. Oh man. You know what? I'll take I'll take my shot on Mr. Rice, Mr. Braden Rice, Jerry Rice's kid. I liked just because of the fact the Chargers have so many holes at wide receiver. It's not really clear like whose job it is. I think it's wide open. I don't think they're tied to Quentin Johnston at all. If he's not the best guy, he's not going to play. If he ends up being better than McConkey, then so I'll take the shot on him in a team that it's wide open at the wide receiver spot where I think they're going to give all these different options that they drafted and signed a chance. And hey, at the end of the day, maybe he ends up becoming one of Herbert's favorite targets and ends up being something. So I'll take the shot on him at 35 just because of the murkiness of the Chargers wide receiver room right now.
Yeah, I love that, especially because Jerry Rice and him felt slighted that he went undrafted, and Jerry said,
No,
"I'm not."
he went in the seventh, but still
Oh, sorry.
was
That
he
yeah,
was still slated to be like potentially day two, not even like
yes. The fact that he slid and almost went undrafted.
yeah.
My bad there. But Jerry Rice said, "I'm going to be involved in all your workouts now." So when you're training with arguably the greatest wide receiver of all time, that's very beneficial on a team that needs guys to step up at the position. So that's a really good dart throw at the end. And to wrap it up, oh man,
How
I'm
we
between
ending it?
two
How we
guys.
ending it?
I'll tell you I'm between. I'm between Braylon Allen and Will Shipley. Two backups, two supposedly high powered offenses. Ultimately, I'm going to go Shipley because Barkley is going to be 27 this year. Brees Hall is going to be 23. So give me Will Shipley, also a really good receiver. So I think he could be. I think they do some creative things with Shipley. I'm going to take Shipley, running back out of Clemson.
I don't hate that at all, dude. My whole thing with Allen is I just don't see it. Like maybe he could be involved as like the goal line back, but I just think it's going to be a lot of Brees Hall, and I'm not fully sold on the talent of him. So I like that better. And just looking at like, hey, they both have studs in front of them, but Saquon's probably going to be around. You would imagine he'll be out of the league or less relevant before Brees Hall is just because of the mileage and the age and all that. So and Shipley just had more production in college. He's the better back, in my opinion, with who is more proven in the more pro style offense, playing more top competition. Like, not that Wisconsin doesn't play top competition, but Will Shipley has played in a lot of big games and stuff. So I could see him carving out a role where I feel like Allen, if he's not ready because he's a young guy and doesn't really know the plays, like he's gonna fall down the depth chart where I feel like Shipley is just gonna be smarter. But you can't go wrong with either. But that concludes the draft. What I will say is, as soon as your draft ends, go scramble, pick up any guys you want to take shots on. It could be quarterbacks like Spencer Rattler, or like I know I picked up Hendon Hooker. Obviously, it didn't work out, but I threw him on my taxi spot. I let him sit there for the year. Like there might be some of these wide receivers and running backs where I know last year I went after our draft. I picked up Puka Nakua. I picked him right after the draft. And you know what? I threw him on my taxi spot because I'm like, this guy probably won't be anything. He was something, all right. He was something.
Oh, he was
So
something.
So whether you have two taxi spots or three taxi spots, as soon as your draft ends, you're going right to the waivers, pick up 2 to 3 guys, flyers, fill up all those taxi spots. Maybe it's nothing and you drop them, or maybe you got Puka Nakua, but you'd be a fool to not do it.
Yeah, it depends on how many draft picks you have. That is definitely smart though. Like, don't hold on to a dead weight veteran that's in a platoon that has already hit their ceiling. I'd rather drop that dude and stash one of my rookies I drafted on my bench and then go pick up a guy and stash him in my taxi. I think that's more beneficial in the long run because you can hit a home run like Reagan did by adding Puka Nakua.
Yeah.
So I think
And
that's definitely the way
and
to
I would
go.
have never hit it if I was like, oh, the draft's over. Like, I'm going to go hang out. Because there's going to be guys in your, not everyone in your league is going to be smart. And that's an easy way that you can get an advantage in your league. And maybe it doesn't work out every year, but like if you go pick up 3 guys, I'd imagine at least one of them will have some fantasy value, at least some. Like maybe you could even start them in 1 week. Like you never know with injuries, you never know with situations, so you'd be a fool to not do it. Don't let them sit on waivers and then have that big game and then get scooped up because you don't have the waiver priority or you don't have the fab left. Take the shot. That's the biggest thing I could say for dynasty drafts and these rookie drafts. Like just fill out your roster, fill every taxi spot. You'd just be a fool to not utilize it.
Absolutely, Reagan. Couldn't agree more. And I think that's a phenomenal way to wrap up this episode of Around the Felt. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll catch you soon.
Yes. Thank you guys. Peace.